Welcome to the Artwork of You, the podcast where your life is the canvas and you are the masterpiece. I'm your host, Lori Gouhin, and together we'll explore creativity, self-awareness, mindset, goal strategy, and the importance of accountability so that you can paint your life's portrait with confidence and ease. Remember, in the gallery of life, you're not just a spectator, you are the art. So let's grab our brushes and start creating the masterpiece that is you.
Hello, my friends. I am so glad that you are here with me today because today I have a special episode. I am being joined with my great friend, Mitzi Campbell, host of the top-rated show, The Blessings Podcast, where she is interviewing me and we talk all about goals. I think we have a great conversation and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did.
Hi, Lori. Thank you for joining me today. So you know that I wanted to talk to you today about the idea of goal setting and what goals are and how we can identify the goals that we need that are best for us and how we can use them in our lives and in our business. I think we hear so frequently that we should just get started. We should just take action, just get going, and that clarity will come afterwards. So after you've been doing what you want to do for some time, that kind of sense of clear focus will come to you. And I found that while it was true that the clarity did follow the action, that I actually had to grapple a little bit with clarity after I took action because it didn't come to me in a light bulb kind of moment, that I had to work for it and that my clarity is constantly evolving. So over the last few weeks, I've defined and discussed clarity here on the podcast. So if you haven't listened to those episodes, go ahead back and listen to the episode on clarity and the episode also on mission and vision, because I dove into those topics as well. But once you gain some insight into these core elements, then what? Then where do you go and what do you do? Do you just keep doing what you're doing? Do you redefine what you're doing? Do you follow a new direction? How do you determine the next right steps? And so this is where goals come in. It's just a natural flow from clarity to mission to vision to goals. And I, of course, thought of you immediately because you say the goals are your specialty. And I really wanted to tap into your expertise as a coach to find out how people can really get started with goals. So to begin, let's talk about the transition from bringing your life and or your business into clear focus into forming and articulating goals for yourself or for your business. And how do you navigate that time, that transitional time, that kind of liminal space in between with confidence, ease, and flow to move into a place where you have more clarity and intention around what you're doing and where you're going?
I would start by first saying that I agree in that clarity follows action, but it's also very typical and very normal that the clarity doesn't come in a light bulb moment. I would say that once you have some initial clarity, which is generally, as I didn't listen to your podcast episode yet, but when you talk about vision, so I like to think of clarity also as the vision ahead, right? So which direction you're going. And so once you know that, you have to really think about, all right, how is the best course of action for me to get there? Because it's very specific, because your limiting beliefs will be different than my limiting beliefs. Your strengths will be different than my strengths. And so you have to really become self-aware. And I always say that all change starts with self-awareness, because we don't know what we don't know until we suddenly do know, right? And so really do that self-awareness work even after you've reached some clarity as to what's the best path for me. How can I make my goal a reality? And then write that down. Write down the big overall clarity direction that you want to go. Write down the overall goal, using podcast as an example, because you're a podcaster and I'm a podcaster, right? And so if I went from me, as I wanted to do a podcast, it took me like a year to actually, it probably took me 10 years, but it really took like that year of getting from telling you initially, oh, I'm starting a podcast as well, and I know it's going to be about goals, to like actually doing it. So how did I go through that process? I had to really become self-aware as to what kind of a show I wanted to have. So I started thinking about that. What was the premise of my show? What kind of guests did I want to have? Do I want to have guests? Do I want to do a combination of both? Do I want to do an hour-long show? Do I want to do a 10-minute show? And so I just got really clear on all the things that felt like they resonated with me. And so then I write those down, right? So now I know which direction I'm heading in. But then, as you said, sometimes it's not like all of a sudden you just start taking the action and it happens because hesitations will come up. And so you have to figure out, what are those things holding you back? Why is it taking me so long? Why am I not moving in that direction? Because again, as you said, people say just get started, but it's not always that easy. And I get getting out of your comfort zone. We all have to do that, but sometimes there are real reasons. And for me, with the podcast, it was, I don't know how to do the intro and the outro. I don't know how to do that. And so therefore I'm not making a podcast, forget it. That's literally what was like holding me up. And so once I became aware that it was really that simple, I could actually hire somebody for minimal cost to do that for me. Then I was like, all right, my goal now is in 30 days, I'm going to launch my podcast.
So that's really interesting. I love that you say that once you identify what's holding you back, so you've got clarity, then you have to take that middle step of identifying what's holding you back. And that comes from a process of self-awareness where you're really going in, doing the inner work, asking yourself questions, doing meditation, taking quiet time, journaling, all that sort of thing. And you'll get the answers to that question of what's holding me back. And then you write about it, write that down. And then from there, you can start to articulate a firm goal, like your goal of within 30 days, I will X. Okay, so that sounds like an interesting goal format, because clarity to me is like the overarching thing. So the goals are that, would you call them the steps?
Yeah, I would definitely call them the steps. And one way I can give you a little hack to get to those hesitations a little bit quicker is to write SMART goals, right?
So your SMART goals are
They're specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, they're relevant, and they're time bound.
Yes. And the only reaon I know that is because I have it right here on my notes.
Yeah, I know it. I
do not memorize that.
But anyway, so a little bit of a hack to get to those hesitations is to write out that goal with specifically the time bound, right? Because if you say, I'm going to do this within a certain amount of time, and you start to feel a little bit anxiety in you, you're going to know that there's still some hesitation there. And what is it? And it'll just point it right out, because you'll feel it inside. You'll feel that hesitation. Oh, that seems a little bit scary. And that's how I got to knowing that I was hesitant to, because I didn't know how to do the intro and the outro and the music and all the editing and stuff. And then once I realized that was the hesitation and I found somebody that could do that for me, it was no problem to say, okay, in 30 days, I'm going to launch. And now how specifically am I going to do that? And getting back to goals being the steps, I feel like from my perspective, they are. And that's when I talk a lot about the difference between targets and goals, right? So yes, we all have targets, and that's what we're aiming for. It's a little more out of your control. And so when people have the target of, I want to make X amount of dollars in my business, there's a lot of varying factors that go into that. Whereas if somebody has the goal, I'm going to start a podcast, you either do it or you don't. And I get you either make the money or you don't, but it's somewhat out of your control. It's what you're aiming for. The goals are the daily to-do steps that you can check off the box to make sure or to assure that you have the best chance of reaching that target.
Goals are your things that are within your control. They're the steps that you actually take. But targets are things that you would like, but they may be somewhat out of your control.
Correct. It's what you're aiming for. You're aiming for, and a lot of times I think what trips people up too in their day-to-day, say, for example, social media, they'll say, I'm going to try to post every day on social media. That's very vague, and that is treating it more like a target out of your control. That you can have a goal to post 5 days a week on social media. You either accomplish the goal or you don't. It's very easy to check off your list. Yes, I posted today. Yes, I posted today. Yes, I posted today. You might say, I want to have 1,000 new followers by the end of the month. That's more of a target. It's something you're aiming for. And I think they're both necessary. You need things to aim for, and you need the concrete goals to be able to hopefully achieve that success. So if you have a target of 1,000 new followers, what are the things you can do every day, every week, and every month to help you get to those new followers?
So is it like a chicken and egg thing? Which comes first, the targets or the goals?
No, not necessarily. I think they're both really important because sometimes you'll just have a target. You can say, I want to make X amount of dollars in my business in the next 12 months. That's perfectly okay to have a target. It's great to have a target. But to reach that target, you really need to rely on the daily, weekly, and monthly goals that you're going to commit to doing so that you can reach that. You
Okay.
don't want your day to be filled with targets necessarily, because then that's when you find yourself really not moving the needle or starting to get lost in confusion and overwhelm and indecision. If you just have specific things that you know you're supposed to be doing to reach that target, it just makes it so much easier. And you set yourself up for success.
Yeah. So targets could be the things that are really aligned with your overall vision for
Yes,
yourself. But in order to really get to the target, you have to create the steps, and those are the goals. So, how do you know what is a good first step?
you break it down. I like to work with my clients in 90-day increments because sometimes that overall target, or even if it's a big goal that you have for yourself, can be overwhelming. And it just seems like there's too many decisions to make, too many directions to go. So I like to break it down into 90 days. So if, for example, at the end of the year, you have say maybe you want to create a course, or you want to create or go back to a podcast, or you want to create X amount of dollars in your business. So you can either have an overall target or you can have an overall goal. Where do you need to be in 90 days? 90 days before the goal, I should be at one point. And so we start with the first 90 days. In 90 days, what would be meaningful progress toward that goal?
Mhm. So it might not even be the full articulation of the goal. It could be what you feel is achievable in 90 days.
Exactly, because a lot of times we get so many steps ahead of ourselves, right? We want to do all the things and we want to do them all now.
Mhm.
And then again, we get lost in confusion and overwhelm. Now, of course, there are many goals that don't take a year or 6 months or even 90 days, right? When I started my podcast, it was 30 days to launch. So most times, though, if it's a big enough goal, if it's a big enough reach, we work in 90-day increments. But within that 90 days could be several goals as well. So within the next 90 days, I want to have a podcast. I want to start a Facebook group. I want to, whatever, I'm an artist as well. So I want to sell 3 paintings in the next 30 days, whatever it is, right? You just break it down to what will be meaningful progress either toward that goal, or if you want to achieve it in 90 days. Okay, if I want to achieve it in 90 days, then what's going to be meaningful progress in 60 days, 30 days? What can I do today? What can I do tomorrow? And so on.
I suppose that once you begin to work backwards like that, you can easily see whether the goal is attainable, because you can't say, I'd like to make $1 million in 90 days. That's going to be
If you're starting from
probably
zero, yeah, most
harder,
likely
right?
not. Yeah,
But you could say, all right, I want to make $5,000 in 90 days. And then once you see that's easy, you can raise the goal. You can say, in the next 90 days, I know now I can do this. Now I want to make $20,000, or what if your goal is about money. So you can
yeah. Or I want to make
enhance your
100.
goals.
Yes, exactly. And so if you have a like starting from now to the end of the year, or a year-long goal of making, say, 6 figures, $100,000 in your business, that doesn't mean, okay, this month I need to make 8,800 and whatever that number is,
Yeah.
$8,000 this month. No, you can start by saying, if you're going from zero or you're going from minimal income right now, you can start by saying, all right, this month, I'm going to make $4,000, or I'm going to make $2,000. And once I find out how to do that and I can replicate that, now the next month I'm going to make maybe $5,000. And then maybe the next month again, I'm going to see if I can do that consistently. And then you
Mhm.
just increase it. You do more of the same. You continue to do more of what's worked.
Yes. Okay. I love that. So you have to start somewhere. You just have to, instead of getting held up in the thing that's preventing you, like I can totally see people even just being prevented from making a goal because they're thinking, what should my goal be? I don't know what to do. I don't know what the first step is. But it goes back to that taking action. So you need to take action on setting some goal, one goal, and then you have the information you need to be able to make more goals, a set of goals for different areas of your life, different areas of your business. And then you can begin to really work with the goals, because goals are also, they're different sizes, they're different weights. And you have to begin somewhere so that you can
Yeah.
see what you need, right?
And I'll go back to when you say some people are afraid to even make a goal or they're hesitant to make a goal, that lets you know that they still have hesitations. Most likely it's they don't believe that the goal is possible for them. And that's why the mindset work always has to come first. So why don't you believe it's possible for you? And you have to really uncover where those limitations are, those limiting beliefs. Because
Yeah.
once they believe that something's possible, so maybe you don't believe it's possible to make six figures in your business. Okay, do you think it's possible maybe to make $2,000 this month? Let's start there. And what can we do to give you the best chance of success to make some money this month?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. The idea of having certainty, the idea of believing that things are possible is an interesting concept because there are a lot of people who they may have that limiting belief about themselves that things are not possible for them. But when we look for evidence in our lives that things have been possible in the past, that things have happened for us, that positive things have happened, and then we can look around in the world and see examples of that in other people and how they have achieved things that we would like to achieve. Those are great ways to tap into the mindset piece that you need in order to articulate that first goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I always encourage people to do is to write it down. Look, as you said, look for evidence of the opposite. So, for example, I can tell you some things for me personally, like if I would be feeling, say, in my art business that sales were slow, or I'm starting to think, oh, people are confused, or what, am I an artist? Am I a coach? Whatever. I anchor back to times where I, out of nowhere, things were created. And I probably told you this before, but like one night I randomly sold 4 paintings to a stranger, an internet stranger in Arkansas, right? I anchor back to things like that, that things just, there's always examples of the opposite. So if I was thinking like my business isn't going well, I don't believe it's possible for me, I'd be like, wait a minute, I remember this time. So things can happen in an instant.
They can. They can. And it's interesting because I just had an experience of, for the first time in my life, feeling what it feels like to really truly detach from the outcome. And that's a big part of it because you have to believe it's possible, but at the same time, you have to be okay with whatever is meant for you happening and trust that's going to happen, that whatever's meant for you is going to happen. It's either going to be that or something better.
Yeah, absolutely. And because a lot of times too, you have to pivot. You don't always know the way. You can start out in one direction, moving towards that goal, but maybe it's not working for one reason or another. Maybe you're not in alignment with it. And so you can still keep that goal in mind, right? You still can be somewhat attached to it. Yeah, I still want to achieve that. It's just not working this way. So how can I make it work? Always ask yourself how, not, I think how is such a better question than what. Like, how can I?
Mm.
How can I make this happen? How can I be better at this? How can I connect with this person? How could I, whatever? And so you might have to pivot your strategy a little bit to get to that goal. But as long as you keep it front and center, that's still what you're aiming for, you'll find eventually the right way to get there.
Mm.
And another thing about belief is that I really work with people in believing in the, like, we never set up a plan that they don't believe in because they're never going to follow through. I could tell you what to do all day long, but if it doesn't resonate with you, if you still have hesitations about certain things, you'll find yourself not following through and not being accountable to the things that you say you're going to do. So it has to be the actions and the goals that you're doing every day have to be things that, yeah, they can stretch you, they can put you a little bit out of your comfort zone, but they have to be things that you're comfortable doing in essence so that you will do them. And the more
Yeah.
you do that, and the more you keep those micro commitments to yourself, the more your confidence increases. And then the more willing, you're more willing to go that much further outside of your comfort zone moving forward. It's like the compound effect.
Okay, I love that you just said micro commitments. What a great word. I feel like those are tiny steps to a goal.
They
Like
are.
it's
Those are the daily things that you do. They're just little, they're micro steps and micro goals they just build upon each other toward that overall goal.
And micro commitments could become habits that lead to the
Yes.
goal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, it's really interesting. So we talked a little bit about SMART goals, and I was curious when I was researching goals, about the idea that there are other types of goals, because I'm not sure that SMART goals resonate with everyone. So those specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound.
Goals.
But yeah, there are other types of goals. So what other types of goals do you work with that you find are really effective as well?
The grow goals. So that would be the goal. Is it reasonable or realistic? Is it realistic?
Mm.
What are the obstacles standing in your way? And then what's the way forward? And so that those are the two that I primarily work on. Because I feel like between the two of them, it really gives you a great plan for the strategy moving forward. Because I know that SMART goals don't resonate with a lot of people, and often there is a whole group of people also that say goals don't resonate with them. They don't believe in choosing goals. And that's okay. Whatever works for you. But I like the SMART goals in that they're specific and that they're time bound, because people rely on I will try, or I plan to, or I'll go for a walk tomorrow. And if I'm working with somebody and they really want to start incorporating exercise, yeah, I'll go for a walk tomorrow. Okay, what time? I'll ask them. And then you can see the hesitation bubble up, because
Yeah.
I'll go for a walk tomorrow is too vague. It needs to be specific so that they know, oh, it's 6 o'clock. I committed to going for a walk in the 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever. So they need to go at that time. But then I also like the grow goals, because I love, that you identify the obstacles ahead of time, and so that you have a plan to work around them, right? So if exercise is one of your goals and you're going to go every morning at 6 o'clock, but it's raining, you already know ahead of time that can be a potential obstacle. So I'm going to just commit to walking with an umbrella. I'm not going to give up my walk if it's raining, because if you don't already identify even a simple obstacle like that, you wake up and it's raining, you justify that you don't need to go out for a walk that day. But if you've already identified the obstacle as rain, that you're going to go with an umbrella, then you're still going to commit and follow through.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that what you said was interesting. When you put someone on the spot and you ask them to commit to a time or a time period or a number of some sort, it almost seems to be related to numbers. That's when they get tense. That's when they think, oh, okay, that's the point for them to ask themselves, why am I feeling this way? Why is it hard for me to say 5 o'clock is the time, or 30 days is the time period, or $1,000 is the number? So what is that? What's that all about?
That's the hesitation that needs to be identified. And often it comes back to, as we said, limiting beliefs, or really often a belief in themselves. They don't believe they're going to do the work. They don't believe that they're going to stay committed, because maybe in the past they haven't. And so this is all new. There's nobody holding them accountable. They're not holding themselves accountable. And so when somebody's asking them to be specific like that and to have a time frame, it just feels uneasy. And so the way around that is to, first of all, become aware of it by having somebody ask you those questions, because often we don't even know the questions to ask ourselves. And that's the benefit of having a coach. And so somebody to ask you those questions, see where you get tense, where you're resistant, and then explore that a little deeper.
Yeah. Anytime something makes you feel like, ooh, I'm not sure I want to answer that right now, that's a place for you to look deeper. And that can come from other things in your past, not just within yourself and your mindset, but also like experiences from your childhood, experiences in your life that
1,000%.
that are triggering something. And triggers are mirrors. And that's a
Yeah. Well,
trigger.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're mirrors, and they're like a big shining light to look where you need to look deeper.
that's right. So another word came up in my research when I was looking into goals, and I wonder what you think about this word, milestones. So what are they?
Uh, the milestones, I would say, I would liken that to when I say, like, where do you need to be in 60 days? Where do you need to be in 30 days? If you want to make $2,000 in 30 days, if it's day 28 and you haven't made any money, I'm not saying that you can't make $2,000 in the last 2 days, but you really are not at that milestone, right? You want to map out, where do I need to be so that I know I'm staying on track, right? Depending on what the goal is and what the time frame is, you want to identify those. They don't have to be super specific, but general areas of where you should be at a certain time point.
So milestones are related to time. Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely related to time from my perspective, but they can also be related, I think, to mindset, like how you're feeling at a certain point, that like you maybe say, for example, you think you need to be doing live videos, or maybe you need to be going live on social media. And you're absolutely nowhere near ready. You don't even like posting your picture, let alone getting on video. You're starting there, and your goal is in 30 days that I want to start posting live. I guess that's still related to time, but it's like the mindset of how comfortable you're feeling each step of the way. What are the milestones I can do to make me like, okay, I can post 30 pictures of myself. And by the time I post 30 pictures of myself, after that milestone, I might then feel comfortable getting on camera.
Mhm. Right. In your experience, when people do not have goals, do you see them succeed?
I think that sometimes people have goals without specifically saying I have goals. So yes, I would say that you might see someone very successful in their job. They don't appear to have any goals other than to get up and go to work and come home and live their lives, but they're successful in their job. I think there are underlying goals, right? Of just being the type of person that follows through, being the type of person that shows up, being the type of person that wants to maybe please others. And that's why you're successful in your job. You don't have these big, hairy, audacious goals that you're putting out there to the world, but yet you do have goals. Those people that stay lost in confusion and overwhelm and indecision and have nothing to look forward to in life, or no direction that they're specifically going, I say it's definitely more difficult for them to be successful. Success is such a subjective word. So
Yeah.
I think we'd have to really determine what we mean by success, right? Because somebody, maybe their success is just being happy and being at home.
Yeah, that's true. And it seems to me like goals can be internally driven or they can be externally driven. Someone can give you your goals and you can become very successful at reaching those goals. If you're an employee at a company, even a high level employee, even a CEO, for example, who's beholden to a board of trustees who may hand down the goals and the person can just reach those goals. So I love the distinction between externally driven and internally driven, because I think as we talked about people who have their own businesses, I've been calling the one person business like you and I have, and the entrepreneurship thing that there's so many emerging entrepreneurs who listen to the show. And all of us are by nature internally driven. And it is interesting to think about how you can articulate your direction and your goals when it's all you. It's all about you, and you have to be responsible for everything. It's a big weight.
It's a very big weight. And one thing that I always suggest to people is that the best way forward in doing that is to make sure that your goals are aligned with your values and your strengths. And so I always, in the beginning, if people aren't aware of their values, or if their goals seem scattered, or they're not aware of their strengths, we do work on that, right? What are your core values and what are your core strengths? Because if you play to your values and your strengths, it makes it go a lot smoother and easier, and the hesitations don't come up quite as much.
How many
Because I
people?
can tell you this, if you're working on a goal and it's not aligned with your values, and that could be in the corporate world, you very well might achieve the goal, but you're not going to necessarily be satisfied or happy. It's not going to
Yeah.
bring you what you're hoping to feel inside from achieving that.
So goals that are internally driven should be tied to personal fulfillment and satisfaction.
Yes. And your values and your strengths.
Yeah. Okay. That's really
Yeah, your values
fascinating.
specifically so that you feel aligned and you want to move forward. And then your strengths so that you shortcut the time, that you make it the easiest path forward possible.
Now, when people come to you, have they typically already started something and then they're at the point where I was, where they've started something, they get clarity around it, and then they realize, oh, I need some goals. I need to figure out specifically, like, what am I doing now that I'm in this? I've already
I
started it. I'm in the middle of it. I'm in the thick of it. What's next?
Yeah, definitely people come at that stage, but people come in the beginning as well, where they're really just even looking to give themselves permission to start something.
Hmm.
It's a lot of people, they have aspirations or they have dreams, maybe, right? A dream is maybe a little bit more vague than a goal would be or a target would be, but they have dreams of doing something more. They know they're meant for something more. Maybe they're reached a certain point in life and now they have more free time. And so they want to try something new, but they hesitate just to even give themselves permission to start. And so sometimes people come at that point and we really get clarity around what are the kinds of things that light them up. I work a lot with creativity. So creative problem solving is a big part of that. And so solving the problem of getting clear on what are the things that sound good, that resonate with you. And then we move on from there. So what are your values? What are your strengths?
It feels like it's a cycle to me. As you articulate the goals, and then it evolves your business, it evolves your whatever it is that you're working on, whether it's personal or business related, as you continue along in the progress of creating goals, and then it's going to help you to gain even more clarity and maybe a new focus. And then you might even shift the vision and the mission, and then it'll lead you into different goals. So
Absolutely.
it's ongoing.
It's ongoing. And so is the mindset work. I can tell you that as well, because every time you stretch yourself and you come up with new goals, or you maybe pivot in a new direction to take on a new project or another new goal, all different kinds of mindset stuff come up than previously, maybe. Like when I wanted to become an artist, that took a certain kind of mindset work to get me to put my work out there into the world. Being a podcaster took a totally different kind of mindset work. So every time you continue to grow and learn, you'll come up with you're never done with the limiting beliefs. They're always come back up.
Yeah, you're always learning something new about yourself. And as you come up with these ideas, and I feel like the ideas are planted there, maybe even spiritually planted.
Yeah.
They come from elsewhere, and we get them, we receive them, and they're a part of us. And then that becomes our calling. And it's there because we need to go through a process in order to learn something about ourselves.
I completely agree. Yes.
Yeah. It's really exciting. I think once you get into that cycle, it's almost like you're surfing. You're
Yeah.
surfing along and you finally get the hang of it. And then you get through that one and then keep going. And another wave comes along and it might be bigger, or it's shaped differently, or it's got more force. And each time you get to figure out how to ride it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. It's so interesting, the whole idea of goals. So what do you see as the end goal of having goals?
Achieving what you want, achieving what you set out to do. And the sense of accomplishment that comes from that and the confidence that grows with that.
Yeah. Do you know that notice that most people will come up with something new to do after they've achieved something big? Or have you seen people who are just simply satisfied with one thing, achieving one goal or a couple of goals?
Not generally, no. I feel like the people that really want to work towards their goals and achieve them, once that's met, because they just want to keep learning and growing. Yes, there's always something after that, whether that's just diving into that goal even deeper, getting even better at that goal, or if it's completely pivoting and trying something new. But no, most people, I would say they're always choosing new goals. But since we're kids, really, you want to make the basketball team, or you want to get into a certain college, or you want to marry the love of your life. We're always picking goals.
We are. They're natural, aren't they? They're like a natural part of us. So if you feel like you're stuck to come up with it, just let it flow. Let it come to you. Let yourself think about what feels like it's the next right thing for you to do in your life.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
always okay to start small. If you think that you have big dreams and visions, but you're not quite sure what that looks like, just start with some small things to give yourself a boost to know that you can accomplish the little goals and they'll lead to the big goals.
Yeah. Yes. I truly believe in unlimited potential. Anything is possible. It really is.
Absolutely.
So got to believe it about yourself. If you're listening, you got this. You can do it. You're capable of anything.
1,000%.
So
Yeah.
what's a big goal that you have right now, Lori? Or a small goal? That you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Which is another good point, which we should bring up, is that you don't have to tell anyone your goals. And sometimes
No.
it's better not to.
Yeah. So I would definitely say that I'm definitely a person that I keep my goals close to my heart, because what I've found throughout my years, and I've been an entrepreneur forever, right? So the times that I talk about my goals ahead of time and I tell a lot of people, what I find is a lot of my energy is taken up in talking about it and not actually doing it. And when I keep it close to my heart it really allows me just to focus and get it done until it's done.
Okay,
So
so
now
let
that
me,
being,
I was going to say, I'll change the question if you want.
I was going to say, I think we could talk about that because I think that's important. And one goal that I set out for myself a couple of months ago was I was doing a podcast episode about bucket list items and going through some examples. And I said out loud, I've never been to Europe. And it's crazy. I'm 58 years old. My husband and I have talked about it and we just never move forward on it. So I made a goal that I will go to Europe by the end of the year. And I just bought my tickets to Italy yesterday. So that's a goal, right? It's I'm either going to Europe or I'm not. It's not, I wasn't aiming to. It wasn't I'm going to try to go to Europe or I want to go to Europe. That's another thing. People get all confused with the targets and the goals. They'll say, I want to do this. It's no, you're either doing it or you're not doing it.
There is no try. You
No.
either do it or you don't. It's an interesting word we fall back on. I'm trying. I tried.
That comes from the hesitation, and not believing in yourself and not being committed to doing the work because of all the
Yeah.
limiting beliefs. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're honest with yourself, I say that all the time. I tried. If you're honest with yourself, either you did it or you didn't do it. If you didn't do it, you didn't do it.
Exactly.
Maybe you wanted to do it, and that's where the trying comes from, but you didn't do it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's why I really work with people on just daily goals because you check them off. There's no excuse for not doing it. It's like you're either doing it or you're not doing it.
Mhm.
There's no ambiguity.
Yes.
And that's when if you really make a good strategy, a plan to achieve something, and you're checking off the things daily and weekly and monthly, and you're still not moving towards that needle, then your plan needs to change a little bit. And that's okay. It's not often that we get the plan right from the get-go.
Yeah, you have to be open-minded, you have to be agile, you have to have the growth mindset, and that's where all of that inner work comes in. But it just strikes me as well that I keep a physical planner and I write in my planner, and I would say my planner is probably a combination of goals and targets because I have a lot more planned in a day than I normally get accomplished. So what's your thought on a to-do list? How does that fit into goals and targets?
Yeah, I think of goals as tasks, right? Daily, but they're more than a to-do list. Another thing that I find a lot when I'm working with people is that they do make a long list like that you're saying. And I try to get them to pare that back. What's realistic to get accomplished? Because nobody feels good when they didn't get all their things on their list done. Even if you're able to let that go and say, well, that was just a bonus if I got it done. What feels really good if you have a list and you're able to check everything off and then you still have time left at the end of the day. And then if you want to add something to the list, you can. But if not, you can feel good about knowing that you got everything done. I'm working with a client right now, and she had really big ambitions for getting her website done. And she just wasn't feeling success because it was just too much. I'm like, we're going to work just an hour a day. That's it. And you can feel good about that. You did the hour, whatever you got done. Because when you have too many things on the list, you also get pulled in so many different directions. Most people have the habit then of they'll start something and then they'll move on to another before one thing's finished. And anyway, that's what was happening with her. So we're just going to work an hour every day. And over the next week, that'll be 7 hours devoted to your website. If we want to take 2 weeks, that'll be 14 hours. You can make a really nice website in 14 hours. And so, yeah, I would suggest or offer that you might want to pare down your to-do list to really be intentional. That's the overall goal with doing that, is so that you're really intentional with your time.
I did an episode on the Eisenhower matrix, using the Eisenhower matrix.
Yeah, I just brought that up. I brought that up on I think it was my last podcast episode.
Oh.
Maybe it was the one before that. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Yes.
That is funny.
Yeah, we're thinking that we do think alike though.
Yeah, that's really ironic.
I know. But the thing about using the Eisenhower matrix is that you also have to keep in mind the tasks that are actually going to have leverage. So I think identifying the urgency and the importance is really key, but also then taking a look at the things that are going to move the needle. Because I'll often see things that are important and urgent, but they're not moving the needle. So I might move something up on my list because it's going to really make a difference, even though it's not important or urgent. So
no.
yeah. It's
Well, and a lot of
interesting.
times I think people do find themselves busy with things that are not moving the needle because
Oh
they're the
yeah.
safer things, right? They're,
Yeah.
I'll redo my website because I know how to do, I can do that and it's not getting me out of my comfort zone. Now,
Yep.
with this particular client that I was talking about, she had no website. So she really wanted to just get one up there so that she felt professional. And I get that. I was the same way with my art business. But no, you're absolutely right. Like moving the things, to me, those are the things that are very urgent and that the priority. They're going to be moving the needle forward.
Yep. It's a different type of urgency and importance. And you have to recognize that it's not just about the things that feel like, oh my gosh, I have to get this done. That's not really the only indicator of urgency and importance. It's also a objective, rational kind of look at your business or your life. And that's where the goals come in. I think
Yeah,
that ties it right back to goals.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
milestones, right?
Yep.
Because you want to be moving that needle toward that milestone.
That's right. And there's a lot of psychology, a lot of research about the dopamine that you get when you are able to check those things off your list. It's a real thing. It's a real
Yes,
scientific
yes, you,
thing.
I know. And it really does build your confidence. And as we
Yes.
said earlier, allows you to really compound those feelings so that you stretch yourself more and more. It gets easier and easier.
Yep. And that's how you create evidence of success. Beautiful. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Lori. Wow. I think we covered it all.
Right.
So if anyone needs help working on their goals, where can they find you?
They can find me at my website, which is theartworkofyou.com. And I'm the artwork of you on Instagram, or they can
Okay.
also find me on LinkedIn under Lori Gouhin. So just
Okay.
Google my name, all my stuff will come up. But
Lori
my,
Gouhin. And we'll
yeah,
have all your information in the notes for people who are interested in working specifically with a coach on their goals, their business aspirations, or anything you
yeah.
need
And I have a
Lori.
great self-awareness 90-day journal for free on my website. If anyone
Oh,
is interested in downloading that, yeah, it takes you through 90 days with really great journaling prompts and other exercises to really gain self-awareness.
okay. I love it. All right. So go on there and get the journal, everybody. Okay. Thanks, Lori. I
Of
love
course, thanks for the
you. Thanks for
opportunity. It was
joining
great
me.
talking with you. Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity.
That's a wrap for today, my friends. Thank you for sharing your time with me. And remember to show up in your life like the masterpiece you are, because you are the artwork. Please subscribe and leave a 5-star review. Have a fabulous day.